What's up, y'all? It's Evan from DMV Sports Zone giving you another update on all things DMV sports. As always, we start with college football and the Maryland Terrapins. So, Maryland kind of found a spark that they hadn't seen since their bye week. They fought valiantly but came up just short 43-30 to number 2 Ohio State. So, Tua Tagovailoa in the game became the school's all-time leading passer. But nonetheless, the loss drops the Terrapins to 6-5, 4-5 in the Big Ten, 4th in the East Division. Up next, the Terps wrap up the regular season at home against the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Rutgers comes in at 4-7, 1-7 in the Big Ten, last in the East Division. The Scarlet Knights are coming off a 55-10 loss against number 11 Penn State, and they have been eliminated from bowl contention. So for Rutgers, the road ends here. Up next, let's talk about the Navy midshipmen. So this past week, Navy went down to Orlando and shocked the world. A 17-14 win over number 20 UCF on a game-winning 45-yard field goal by Beion Nichols with 8:22 to go. The win improves the midshipmen to 4-7, 4-4 in the American Athletic Conference, and 6th place in the conference standings. Up next for the mids, they have a bye, and they're going to need it because we all know who Navy plays next. Up next, let's talk about the Virginia Cavaliers. So Virginia this past weekend had a game canceled against Coastal Carolina to mourn and pay respects to the 3 Virginia football players who lost their life in the tragic shooting this past weekend. It's unclear whether they'll play their game this Saturday against Virginia Tech, but nonetheless, we are still thinking about the University of Virginia, their students, their football program, and our thoughts and prayers are still with them in this difficult time. Wrapping up the college football segment, let's talk about the Virginia Tech Hokies. So Virginia Tech's back in the win column by the slimmest of margins. They beat Liberty 23-22 this past weekend on a 1-yard touchdown run by Jalen Holston with 7:46 to go. That proved the difference. The win improves the Hokies to 3-8, 1-6 in the ACC, last place in the Coastal Division, and that may just be where Virginia Tech ends their season. And if it is, good for the Hokies to end on a high note. Now we transition to hockey and the Washington Capitals. So for the Caps, the early season struggles continue. The latest example, a 4-0 loss to the Avalanche on Saturday, which drops the Caps to 7-10-3, 17 points, 7th in the Metropolitan Division, ahead of only Columbus, and they've lost 4 in a row. So here's the week ahead for Washington. For the Capitals, the week begins on Wednesday when they host the Philadelphia Flyers. The Flyers come in at 7-7-4, 18 points, 6th in the Metropolitan Division. Philadelphia is coming off a 5-4 shootout loss in Montreal on Saturday. They've lost 6 in a row. This is the first of 4 between the Caps and the Flyers. Last season, Washington and Philadelphia split 4 games. On Friday, the Capitals welcome in the Calgary Flames. The Flames are currently 8-7-2, 18 points, and they're tied with Edmonton for 4th in the Pacific Division. Calgary's coming off a 5-4 shootout win in Florida on Saturday on a game-winning goal by Rasmus Andersson. This is the first of 2 between the Caps and the Flames. Last season, Washington and Calgary split a pair, with the road team winning both. And for the Capitals, the week concludes on Saturday when they head to New Jersey to take on the Devils. The Devils are currently 15-3, 30 points, and 1st in the Metropolitan Division. New Jersey's coming off a 5-1 win in Ottawa on Saturday, and they've won 12 in a row. They're undefeated in the month of November. This is the second of 4 between the Caps and the Devs. Washington actually leads the season series 1-0 after beating New Jersey 6-3 in Newark on October 24th. The Devils have not lost since that day. And now we transition to basketball and the Washington Wizards. So this is the Wizards team that's finding ways to win every other night. The latest example, a 106-102 win over the Hornets on Sunday, which improves the Wizards to 10-7, 6th place in the Eastern Conference, and they've won 2 in a row. So here's the week ahead for Washington. For the Wizards, the week begins on Wednesday when they head to Miami to take on the Heat. The Heat are currently 7-10, 11th in the Eastern Conference. Miami's coming off a 113-87 loss in Cleveland on Sunday, and they've lost 3 in a row. This is the second of 4 between the Wiz and the Heat. Washington leads the season series 1-0 after beating Miami 107-106 in overtime in D.C. on November 18th. On Friday, the Wizards will remain in Miami to take on the very same Heat. The same information applies as before, with the only difference being this game would be the third of 4 between the Wizards and Miami. And for the Wizards, the week concludes on Sunday when they head to Boston to take on the Celtics. The Celtics are currently 13-3, 1st in the Eastern Conference. Boston's coming off a 117-109 win in New Orleans on Friday. They've won 9 in a row. This is the second of 3 between the Wiz and the Celts. Boston leads the series 1-0 after beating Washington 112-94 in Boston on October 30th. Up next, we transition to college basketball and the 5th-ranked Virginia Cavaliers. So Virginia went to Vegas this past weekend and took home the hardware, beating number 19 Illinois 70-61 on Sunday to claim the main event championship. The win also improves the Cavaliers to 4-0 and boosts them up 11 spots in the AP Top 25 poll. So here's the week ahead for the Wahoos. For Virginia, only one game this week. That's on Friday when they return home to host the Maryland Eastern Shore Hawks. Maryland Eastern Shore comes in at 1-3. The Hawks are coming off a 69-64 loss at George Washington on Friday, and they've lost 2 in a row. Up next, let's talk about the 23rd ranked Maryland Terrapins. So Virginia's not the only team that brought home some hardware over the weekend. Maryland went up to Connecticut this past weekend. They knocked off St. Louis on Saturday, and they ran the floor with Miami 88-70 on Sunday to claim the Basketball Hall of Fame tip-off championship. The win also improves the Terrapins to 5-0 and puts them into the AP Top 25 at number 23. So here's the week ahead for the Terps. For Maryland, only one game this week. That is on Friday when they return home to host an in-state foe, the Coppin State Eagles. Coppin State comes in at 3-3. The Eagles are coming off an 86-67 loss at Marshall on Saturday. But the big storyline here, this is the return of Coppin State head coach Juan Dixon to College Park, where he won a national championship as a player with the Terps in 2002. Up next, let's talk about the Georgetown Hoyas. So for Georgetown, it wasn't exactly a memorable experience in Jamaica, but it did end on a good note, a 69-62 win over LaSalle on Sunday, thanks to 23 points by Qudus Wahab. The win improves the Hoyas to 3-2, gets them back over 500 for the season. So here's the week ahead for G-Town. For Georgetown, the week begins on Wednesday when they host an in-city opponent, the American Eagles. American comes in at 2-2. The Eagles are coming off a 58-53 win at NJIT on Saturday. They've won 2 in a row. And for Georgetown, the week concludes on Saturday when they host the UMBC Retrievers. UMBC is currently 3-2. The Retrievers are coming off a 78-76 win over Central Connecticut State on Sunday. They've also won 2 in a row. And we're wrapping up the college basketball segment with the Virginia Tech Hokies. So for Virginia Tech, it was close but not quite down in South Carolina. They fell to Charleston 77-75 in the Shriners Children's Classic Charleston tournament. Fell in the championship game of that one despite 17 points by Hunter Couture. The loss drops the Hokies to 5-1 on the season. They did still get votes in the AP Top 25, just not enough votes to crack the Top 25. So here's the week ahead for the Hokies. For Virginia Tech, only one game this week. That is on Friday when they return home to host the Charleston Southern Buccaneers. Charleston Southern comes in at 1-2. The Buccaneers are coming off a 99-79 loss at Tulane on Wednesday, and they've lost 2 in a row. And that's it for this update, but stay tuned for plenty of good content from Noah, Nadi, and Abdullah as they cover our Commanders in a big game this week as they return home to host the Atlanta Falcons. Until next time, I'm Evan from DMV Sports Zone saying Happy Thanksgiving, y'all, and Happy Victory Monday.